Wait, are you are you gonna count me in? Whatever. I'm just gonna go for it. Welcome to the Queen's Lead podcast. I'm your host, Amy Singleton, and as a child of the 80s, I'd love to say queens rule, but they don't. Queens lead. Being a queen means you are worthy to be a leader of people. The guests on our show do exactly that. They are leading the way in their businesses, families, and communities. And they're taking their rightful place in the spotlight, leading and inspiring the developing queens in all of us. Welcome to the Queen's Lead podcast.
Now here's your host, Amy Singleton, the queen of realness, leading conversations about business, life, and the real shit you want to know.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Queen's Lead podcast. I'm your host, Amy Singleton, and today we are joined by Misty LeBoy. She's coming to us from Pottstown, Pennsylvania, and she is already wearing her crown. For those of you not watching on YouTube, we've got our crowns here today, and I'll let Misty know that whenever you say something very leaderly or queenly, I will place this on my head as an act of reverence to you and your queendom. So thank you for joining us, Misty. Please introduce yourself to the guests.
Hi, I'm Misty LeBoy. I am a makeup artist, weight loss specialist, and a self-love coach. I help people transform from the inside and out.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited for this conversation today because people ask me all the time, what am I most proud of? And without question, I can say it's the fact that I've learned to love this person right here in front of this mirror. That is what I'm absolutely most proud of in my life because, woman, let me tell you, I spent a long time hating this girl and I still have to regularly shut down my inner bitch. I named her Shannon. So I'm like, okay, shut up, Shannon. Shut up, Shannon, because we all have that voice, right? That tells us not good enough, too big, too small, whatever it is. So let's dig in. And what caused you, what's your background? What caused you to get into this? What were you doing before? Because there's always a before you were this story, right?
Yeah, so I was going to art school and I became an art teacher and I loved all things art. And that led me into cosmetics and makeup and doing makeovers. So I had a art teaching degree, and here I am teaching makeup, and it's my passion. And I love helping women look in the mirror and just feel beautiful about themselves. And I started teaching lessons so that they could, replicate the look and do it on their own. And that was very fulfilling and rewarding. It allowed me to be able to stay at home with my children when they were young. And as they grew older, I kind of got more into fitness and more into self-care. And that led me down a path to a nutritional company that had great products. I lost 65 pounds. And so many women, wanted to know how I did it and what I was doing. It was too good not to share. And here I found another way that I could help women transform inside and out and feel good about themselves. And fast forward to right before the pandemic, I was struggling. Inside, I was in an unhealthy relationship and I was really struggling. And even though I had the makeup on and even though I had lost 65 pounds and kept it off and was, feeling good when I looked in the mirror, deep down inside, something was missing. You may have heard of the God-sized hole before, but I just tried filling this void with everything. Healthy, unhealthy, retail therapy, sex addiction, just seeking validation externally. That had me struggling with the sex and love addiction and abandonment issues. It was just so much going on, and I was in so much pain, and no one on the outside could see. And it really made me realize that no matter how pretty the facade looks, it's just the icing on the cake. If you don't got the ingredients right inside, none of that matters. Right. And I was, not in the best spot. And then the pandemic hit and
oh man,
I was in a really dark, low place. I'm a very social person and not being able to socialize, and I need connection. And I just felt so disconnected and I lost hope. And I recognized that this toxic relationship I was in with a narcissist was just slowly killing me. Oh, wow. And I had become a shell of the person that I was. I barely recognized myself. And I had to find a way out, and had to pull myself away. And the struggle with the sex and love addiction was felt like I was making it impossible on myself. And then I had a spiritual awakening.
Mm,
I realized that I deserve more than this, and that people say that we hurt ourselves. We only let people hurt us to the limit that we'll hurt ourselves.
yeah.
And I was becoming a woman that I no longer recognized, and I had to make some changes, and put some space, and set some boundaries. And slowly I began to heal myself, and the time that I was investing in that toxic relationship, I began investing in myself,
Yeah.
and I became a student of myself. I studied and I researched, and I wanted to learn more about why I was the way I was, why I was attracting what I was attracting. And I started to
Mm.
see the cycles. And it's like once you start to see the cycles, you can't unsee them, right?
Yeah. So dig into that a little bit. Was this, first of all, was this relationship with, was it a long-term relationship? Was it your husband or a boyfriend or?
So I'm in an open marriage, and it
Hmm.
was with a boyfriend of five
Okay.
years.
Hmm.
And the agreement in my open marriage was that I was never going to leave my husband, and this relationship just became so pressuring, for me to leave. And that wasn't what we had agreed on, and it just became so toxic.
Yeah. So you have a husband
Yes,
still
still
that you've been with for how long?
15 years.
For 15 years. And you guys are great, have an open relationship for the both of you.
Yes. Yeah.
That's interesting. Now, he's obviously not a narcissist, or you wouldn't have been with him for 15 years.
Right.
But you say that you were in a cycle of attracting the same kind of person. Can you talk to us about what that looks like? Because I think a lot of women don't recognize these patterns of behavior, and they're like, well, I just always attract the wrong guy.
Right.
What's that all
So
about?
so I was attracting emotionally unavailable men, who were very much like my father, who left when I was a young age. So I was struggling with abandonment issues and codependency, and I was attracting men who were just feeding into that. My
Mm,
husband excluded.
yeah.
So it was like I had this one stable relationship here, but the God-sized hole was making me was making me continue to search.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So I tried to fill that void with other men. I tried to fill it with lots of things, um, but not recognizing that I was recreating the cycle.
Mm, mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. So what's your relationship like now? Are you still in an open relationship?
Yeah. So my husband loved me through the worst breakup of my entire life, and it strengthened our marriage, to even a better place now. I mean, we really believe in helping each other to live our best life, and to support each other no matter what that looks like.
Yeah.
And, we recognize that all your needs are not necessarily going to be met by one person. And that's an unrealistic expectation to think that. So, as we've grown, and as our thinking has evolved, our relationship has become more open, and I'm
Yeah.
I'm more loving, to be honest.
Wow. What caused you all to go down that road? Has it always been that way?
No, at a very young age, I recognized that I didn't believe in monogamy, but I didn't know what that meant, so I had a lot of shame about that.
Hmm.
And I had to keep that part of me hidden for a long
Yeah.
time. And that led to a lot of cheating in relationships that I would, further beat myself up about and feel more shame about.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was in my probably mid 30s that someone introduced me to the lifestyle, and different people, having different relationships. And I learned about polyamory. And
Hmm.
polyamory, for those that don't know, are um, many loves. They don't believe that you can only love one person. And I kind of explained to it like having children. You have your first child, and You love that child more than anything in the world, and you think, I can't possibly love anyone else. And then your second child comes,
And then you're
and you
like,
love that second
wait, I
child
like this one
just,
too.
right, just as much as the first one, but differently. It's different, the love
Yeah.
that you have for your children. And one love doesn't take away from the other love.
Yeah.
We as humans our love is an infinite resource, and we
Yeah.
are capable of loving infinite amount of people. So I've always had this belief, but didn't know what it was called, didn't know how to express it, and had a lot of shame and guilt
Yeah.
over.
I'll bet.
Yeah,
Did you grow up in Pennsylvania?
I did.
Is it a very conservative type traditional town?
Yes, I
Yeah,
would say
same
so.
here. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people don't recognize, even for me, like I was just talking with my husband the other day about my family. When I was young and up until probably my mid 20s, early 30s, we were together all the time. Like, I mean, my extended family, my grandma, my uncle, my sister, her husband and kids, and my husband and kids. And it was like a Friday night to Sunday night thing. Like we were together all weekend long. And he's like, that's not how most families are, right? And I was like, they're not. I mean, it really has been kind of a struggle for me to recognize just certain things in the way that families or people or relationships or individuals conduct their selves and their business of life is so
Hmm.
completely vastly different than my experience. So I love
Right.
seeing what works for other people and exposing that light so that people know there's no shame in what you're doing. I was listening to a podcast with Mel Robbins the other day talking about masturbation and sex with self. I can't remember what they call it. They don't call it masturbation, but these are things that so many of us coming from conservative small towns have so much shame it
Hmm.
wrapped up around.
Yeah. I mean, there were times where I felt like I was living a double life because I had a secret boyfriend and this secret thing on the side, and it was just, I couldn't let anyone know because of the shame of it. And after my first divorce, when my second husband and I got together, I shared a little bit with him about how I was feeling, and he had similar views as well, but he was raised the same way, so he also carried guilt and shame about it. And it took a lot of navigating and a lot of
Yeah.
trust, a lot of open communication to get to a point where jealousy doesn't exist because we know our worth. And when you have two people that know their worth, that are together and they're healed, it's like no woman is a threat to me, no man is a threat to him. And if ever one of us decides to leave, then we support each other in that decision, because that's what part of this is, all us doing this together, supporting each other and living our best life.
Yeah, I love that you talk about the communication piece because I think that's what most people say they do, but don't really do.
During my self-love journey, I had to get radically honest with myself and with others. And, part of that was self-acceptance. And,
Mm.
I felt like there were parts of me that I felt like no one could love me if they really knew the truth.
Oh,
Yeah. And, that kept me in shame, and, just living this double life. I felt horrible about it. And I had self-hatred about it because it wasn't who I felt like I was. I wasn't a dishonest person. I wasn't a disloyal person, you
yeah,
know, for wanting something different.
right. It's just different. It's
Mhm.
not wrong, right? It's just different.
Right. And,
Yeah.
I came to my husband and I said, there are things that I need to be completely honest with you about. And, I want to I don't want to ever be able to, keep anything from you. And, he was like, tell me everything. Like, I want to know it all, the good, the bad, the ugly. And part of my self-acceptance was sharing it with him and telling him, about the horrible things that I felt like I had done in my life, and
Yeah.
talking to him with him, and his unconditional love just made me realize that, like, I am worthy of love, even when I do bad things, and even when I
Yeah.
feel like I was at my worst. And that unconditional love was very healing, very
Yeah.
healing.
Absolutely. That's what I'm most proud of is loving myself because when I got that piece right, when I understood my worth, when I knew that I'm definitely different, I'm not for everybody, but
Mhm.
that tiny amount of people that I could get myself once I got myself right, then the alignment started to come with the other
Yeah,
people in my life, in my business, in my family, and on my relationships, even with my children. I think they recognize now that mom's loving herself more than ever.
yeah,
Yeah, and it sets that example for them to be okay and give them permission to do the same. So
absolutely.
you were teaching art,
Mhm.
started putting on makeup, and just turned this whole thing into a business. When did you exit teaching?
It was early on. I think I only taught for 2 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's becoming a more and more common thread as well. People recognizing what's possible for themselves, right?
And,
Versus
I caught a
the
lot of flack for
plan.
that too. My family shamed me for leaving teaching for network marketing. I was selling cosmetics, and that to them that wasn't a real job, and
Yeah.
they shamed me for it. And just the sarcastic comments and the jabs, that chips away at your self-esteem. You
Yeah.
know, and ah, it's hard.
Well, talk about that a little bit because so many of our listeners are going leaving jobs. They're leaving, they're a therapist and they want to go and be a coach. They're a teacher and they want to go and start a business of their own, or, they're a teacher and they have to do network marketing because they freaking can't afford to live, especially here in Oklahoma, I'll tell you that. So talk to us about how you navigated that, and how you dealt with those voices coming in, especially from those closest to you that you feel like should love and respect and support you so much.
Yeah, I started network marketing, gosh, probably 25 years ago. I was really young. It was a young age, and I got in to cosmetics, and because to me that was like playing with paint, right? That brought out my inner child when I was able to put makeup on, and my mom didn't raise me that way. So,
Yeah.
it wasn't until I was in college that I even learned how to put on makeup. But I definitely became passionate about that and helping women. And as far as the network marketing goes, I remember I was so young and I'm trying to sell cosmetics to much more mature women. And I just kept hearing, "You're so young. You don't know what it's like. You don't understand. You're so young." So I remember trying to make myself look older, even when I would
Wow.
be teaching and do these appointments because I didn't want to be called so young. And then I joined the health and wellness, and it was like I just wanted to be smaller. So it was like I was trying to fit a mold of what someone else wanted me to be. And even with my first husband, it was like, I'll do whatever you want, I'll be whatever you want. Just love me.
Yeah.
So there
Yeah.
was a cycle that was starting of me seeking validation. And even with sales, I wanted to be the top performer. I wanted the recognition, the admiration, and the attention that I hadn't got as a child. And you don't recognize this stuff, when you're younger and you're going through it. But it's like now I can look back over everything and I see it all. And it's like I don't regret a thing. Everything got me exactly here where I am right now. But I noticed the people pleasing, and I
Mm.
noticed, just me trying so hard to win people over. And I look back and I think that poor girl now, we don't know what we don't know. And and I love myself for doing the best, with what I could. But the as far as like the criticism that you get, a lot of people when I was in network marketing, it was a lot of negativity, a lot of why don't you have a real job, oh, you think you're going to become a millionaire, you're going to get rich or whatever. And I did really well. I did really well. I earned a paycheck back, and I proved a lot of people wrong.
Yeah. You're like, well, who's talking now? Mm.
Yeah, sometimes you have to turn that negativity into fuel and use it as motivation. And I certainly did. I couldn't let it keep me down. I had to keep going and keep going and keep going. Sadly, because I felt like I had something to prove.
Yeah.
I tell people the best weight I've ever lost is the weight of other people's opinions.
Ooh, okay, here goes
Yeah.
the crown. I know that's right. Oh, that's so good. Lose that weight. That's the best weight you'll ever
Yes.
lose because
When you stop caring.
ultimately yeah. So like, so is that how you got over it? You just had to stop. I mean, I know that sounds easy, stop caring, but really tuning out those voices and staying in your lane and staying true to what you know you're doing next is really the only way that I've found.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Once I recognized the patterns and I saw that I was seeking validation and looking for my happiness externally and recognizing that what I was seeking for was already inside. I had to stop searching. I just had to go inside and get it and reconnect with my inner queen.
I know that's right.
And in
Yeah.
doing so, like I said, getting radically honest with myself, I decided to put myself first. And, unfortunately, growing up, women are not taught to put themselves first, and
No, we are not.
we have to relearn how to do that. And I just started putting myself first. I started saying yes, um, and when I wanted to say yes, and no when I wanted to say no. And that was really hard for me as a people pleaser to
Oh,
do
it's so
that.
hard. It's so
Learning that
hard.
no is a complete sentence as well. I always felt like I had to explain to people and make up excuses, and that led to little white lies that I felt crappy about myself about, and then I'd beat myself up for
Mm,
lying. It was a bad cycle, and now I'm radically honest, and sometimes the truth hurts worse, but people respect me for it, and I can respect myself for it.
yeah.
Honest with people and being honest with yourself, and learning to set boundaries. That was another hard thing, as a recovering people pleaser to do, and to just start doing the things that I wanted to do that brought me joy every day, focusing on that. That has made a huge difference in my life.
So you mentioned a couple of children or a child. You mentioned children.
Yes,
Talk
I have.
about those children and how you've been able to learn to put yourself first, because a lot of our listeners are younger moms. Their children are younger. My youngest is 15, so they're kind of on their way out of needing mom, and I'm coming to terms with that. But can you talk to these moms out there listening, going, I can't put myself first. I have 5 5-year-olds or whatever it is they've got in their house.
Yeah. Yes, I know. I understand that feeling of not being able to put yourself first, especially being raised in a patriarchal society. I get it. I have three children, 21, 20. Those are my two older boys, and then I have an 11-year-old daughter. And
Wow.
being able to put yourself first. So what I talk to my clients about is when you're on that airplane and it's experiencing turbulence and those oxygen masks drop down, you have to put your mask on first before
Yep.
you can help other people. And you don't even realize how important this is because you haven't been doing it. And you
Yeah.
don't realize the impact that it will have on your life when you try and do it differently and start putting
Yeah.
yourself first. Even if it's at small at first, just 5 minutes a day of quiet time, journaling, meditation, a 15-minute bubble bath, whatever it is that makes you feel good about yourself. Scheduling a date night. I really think a lot of people missed the boat on that one, but part
Yeah.
of a healthy marriage is healthy communication, but also time alone. And
Hmm.
that time alone, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a date night out, it could be time alone at home, but spending that time connecting is just so important. So important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Take care of yourself because you will run out of energy. You will run out of those stores if you don't pour into yourself. Um, so
When
talk
mom's
to us
happy,
about,
everyone's happy, right? Isn't that the saying?
right? That's what they say, but somehow
Yes.
we're all like pissed off all the time. At least most of the women I know seem to be pretty ticked a lot of the time. And I think it's because, yeah, they're not taking the time to pour into number one first.
Yeah, you can't
Um,
pour from an empty cup. You hear it all the time. It's
yeah.
so true.
Yeah, very true. So when someone works with you, take us through what that looks like.
Sure. So, as a self love coach, I have a 12-week program that I do with women, and each week we cover a hot topic. So, like we'll start with self acceptance. I think that's a great place to start for people on
Yeah.
their self love healing journey. So, we'll start with self acceptance, and I have a recorded lesson that I send them. They watch the lesson. It's about a 30-minute lesson, and then together we dissect it and we dig into it. And it's a lot of introspection and a lot of really thought-provoking questions to help you dive deeper into the topic so that you can learn more about yourself and learn to love yourself more. The relationship with yourself is the most important relationship of all. And we just don't focus on it enough. We think about, when was the last time you spent time working on your relationship with yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
A lot of
many
people are
people,
not doing that.
they're not doing it. They're pushing it by the wayside. They don't realize how important it is because it's like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. This isn't stuff we were taught, right? Everything's external. You give, you give, you give, you give until you die. I mean,
Right,
pretty much, right?
right.
You give out of your time, you give out of your wallet, you give out of your home, you give out of your pantry, you give everything you have to the finish line, right? That's what
Yeah,
we were raised to think.
yes. But I mean, I'm sure you probably have found the same thing. When you start giving more to yourself, it changes your vibration and you will get more externally. You will attract more. It,
Absolutely.
it just works that way. The
Yeah.
more I give myself, the more I am able to give others, the more I get in return. And I've been really working on um, mutually beneficial relationships. Meeting people in the middle and not going 80 for their 20.
Yeah.
And that was something that I really struggled with. And if you're out there and you're feeling like I'm always the one doing, I'm always the one calling, I'm always the one reaching out, it's always me, stop doing
Yeah.
it.
Right.
Don't
Yeah.
bitch about what you permit. Like if you're the one who keeps doing it, stop doing it. Stop the cycle. And when I stopped that cycle, I got to find out who was really important in my life.
Yeah.
The people who I stopped contacting that never contacted me back, they just vibrated out. I lost contact with them. And I'm okay with that because
Yeah.
they weren't putting the effort in. So
Yeah.
so I had to find people who were willing to match my effort in relationships
Yeah.
and give as much as I was giving and learn as much. I am looking for relationships that I can learn and grow in now, and that are, just like I said, mutually beneficial relationships.
Yeah. And I love what you said. And that's okay. I say that so much. And that's okay because people were not supposed to be with us for a lifetime. Most of the time, they come in, they come out. And I think we spend a lot of time thinking about what that other person is thinking. And really they're not because they're busy too, just like we
Right.
are. And they have maybe have moved on to a different relationship that is serving them better and serving that person better. And you can find a new relationship that serves, like you said, that is more mutually beneficial to both of you than wasting your time being with the wrong people.
Absolutely. And when you realize that what people do 98% of the time has nothing to do with you,
Right. Yeah.
what a blessing that is, and no one thinks about you more than you think about you. So it's
That's
like
right.
when you stop taking things personally and recognize that their life has nothing to do with you, their decisions have nothing to do with you, it's
Right.
their shit, it's their stuff.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
their experiences. That's a big thing in sales. People will tell you, you can ask 100 people the same question and you're going to get a different answer depending on where they're coming from, not depending on your offer. I mean, of
right.
course your offer has something to do with it, but depending on where this person is coming from, your offer is not right for them. It's not, they're not in the right season. They don't have the right money. They don't have the right, whatever it is, it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with
Yeah,
their experience and where they're coming from.
yeah,
Yeah. I don't think we take that, we don't think about that often enough when we're feeling rejected and sad
right.
and down and all those things, feeling poor me, when they're not thinking about you at all.
Right, exactly. And that goes along with learning not to take things personally. The book, The Four Agreements, boy, that was a gift for me. I must have listened to that book 10 times because every time I found something else and found something else. And I was like, this is, if I just follow these four principles, like it
Oh,
really,
well, for those who haven't read it, tell us a little bit about, tell them about what that book covers. It's so
oh,
good.
um, oh gosh, it covers the four pillars of life, really, the four things that you should focus on. And the main thing, I can't think of all four right off the top of my head right now because I'm on the spot. But the
No
main thing
worries.
is to not take things personally. And it really just it talks about a lot of what we're talking about here about it's someone's perspective, and it goes to learning. You don't need to be right. You reach a
Mm,
point where your peace is more important than being right. And
yeah,
there's that saying, there's no win and lose, because if you lose, I lose too, in a partnership and in a relationship. So,
that's right.
I see a lot of couples still struggling with that. Someone needs to be right, and there has to be a winner and a loser. And
Yeah,
you get rid of that mentality, and you recognize that you are on the same team.
that's
It's
right.
life changing. It is life
Yeah.
changing.
My husband says all the time, I can be happy or I can be right or I can be happy.
Yeah.
I don't have to be right. It's okay.
And that's our
Yeah.
ego, our
Yeah.
ego has to be right. Think sometimes just ask yourself, why is this important? It's not. Let it go.
Yeah. That's it. Literally check your ego. I mean, I'm at the point in my life where if you say 1 + 1 = 5, I'm like, you're right. Enjoy your 5. That's awesome. I love
Right.
your 5. If you like it, I love it. Good for you.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like, why are we sitting around arguing? I think that not enough people have enough hobbies because they're arguing with complete strangers on the internet about
Right.
things that don't matter anyway. Like, holy
Exactly.
crap, get a hobby. You're not busy enough.
So true.
What do you find is the most common thing when a woman comes to work, and I'm assuming you work mostly with women.
I do.
Uh, when a woman comes to work with you in order to try and find this self-love um, relationship with herself, what do you find is usually the most common problem, the most common underlying denominator that everybody's working from?
Lack of self-worth, always. When you peel
Yeah.
back layers and dig deeper, it almost always comes back to lack of self-worth.
Where do you think that comes from?
Childhood trauma. Yeah. And
Yeah.
talking about trauma, one of the things that helped me heal was learning about big trauma and little trauma, and
Okay.
recognizing that, for me, I wasn't sexually abused or physically abused. I didn't have this traumatic childhood. So I had trouble healing because I was thinking there must be something wrong with me because it's not trauma. Like
Mm,
I'm broken, and I can't blame it on trauma. So, it must be me that I'm just that messed up. So, in doing research and being a student of myself, I come to learn that there's little traumas, and these
mm,
little traumas can be just as impactful as these big traumas. And a little trauma could be, getting lost in a grocery store as a child. I mean, we've all experienced that. That's abandonment at its core. Feeling lost and abandoned and left alone. So something little like that, you being made fun of at school,
yeah.
all these little traumas, and some of them, a lot of them, you're not even going to remember. You're
Right.
not going to remember, but all of these little traumatic events add up, and things that we think that aren't traumatic as adults, you have to remember it was the child's trauma. So something that happens to a 5-year-old that an adult doesn't think is traumatic, a 5-year-old still could find very traumatic.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
learning about that, that helped me be able to really do some inner child work and do some healing there. But I think,
Yeah.
childhood and personally, I wasn't raised with in a healthy environment as far as my parents' relationship, and I that's all I knew. When we grow up, what does a loving relationship look like? I didn't know what it looked like because I only had one example, and it unfortunately
Right. We
it
all
was
do.
an
Whatever
example.
example we get,
Yeah.
that's what we get, right? And we're stuck in that example for typically around 18 years. I mean, yeah, I love that you say that because it's really the culmination of of all our experience that makes us who we are. And I also hesitate to use the word trauma because I'm like, well, how's anything really happened to me that was traumatic? And I'm talking to my therapist on Thursdays, like I always do. And I said something to her last week, and she says, I mean, the look on her face was unbelievable. She's like, Amy. And I was like, what? I mean, yeah, that happened. And she goes, that is abuse. You understand that is physical abuse, right? And I was like, wait, what? That's abuse? Really? And she's like, yes, that's abuse. And I'm like, oh shit. Like, okay,
Right.
so maybe the
And
things that
we
I'm
normalize,
thinking of later,
right.
not what really happened to the child.
Hmm. Or things that you don't know are not normal. You grow up normalizing them,
Yeah.
and find out like, oh, everybody didn't sit around passing around a joint, handing the kids the joint. So sometimes we normalize things because we don't understand that they weren't normal. That's just how we grew up. For me, it was, oh, it's not normal to sit around in a circle and you hand the children the joint that they pass to the next adult. That's not normal.
That's not normal? Oh, I
So
think that's kinda how my husband's family was growing up. Yeah, but yeah, like, not normal for my family, that was definitely not the norm.
right. No, not normal for me either.
Yeah.
So we just don't recognize the dysfunction when we're in it.
Yeah, definitely. In recognizing that those things happen to a child and now we're an adult, that's kind of a key point, key takeaway there for me.
Yeah,
Mm.
definitely.
So you find that these people are held on to a lack of self-worth
Yeah.
based on their previous experience, and you're helping them work through that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell us about
Yeah. A lot of women. Oh,
I was gonna
I was
say,
going to
tell
say
us
a
about
lot
a
of women.
favorite client.
Yeah, a lot of women too struggle with that inner critic. That we were talking about in the beginning. Self
Yeah,
talk
Shannon.
is so
Shut up, Shannon.
and
She is. You have to
Jonathan.
name her. Name your
Oh
inner
yeah,
critic, ladies. Name
I
her
just say she's
and
the biggest hit. Yeah,
yeah, personify her. Like, just tell her to shut up when she starts talking. That's what I do.
I do too. I absolutely do. And it's like you can listen to either one. You choose who you want to listen to. Why wouldn't you want to listen to your cheerleader? We have enough haters out there. We need more support and love. Why not give that to yourself? And when you can learn to
Because
do that,
we
that's a gift.
Yeah, but we don't because we've been taught that that's narcissistic or that's too self-serving or it's not okay to cheer for yourself. Someone else has to do that for you, right? Mm-mm,
Right.
that's a lie. I think that's the biggest lie we've all been sold is that someone else is going to cheer for us, do it for us, move the needle forward for us. Look, nobody's coming to save you.
No.
Like, even Jesus Christ himself is not going to reach down his almighty hand and pick you up from where you are. You have to move. You have to decide and you have to go forward, right?
Yes. Yeah. I
You can
remember
do
when
it
I was
arm in arm
a child,
with him, but he ain't gonna do it for you, girl.
I would get yelled at as a child for looking in the mirror.
Wow.
For admiring anything that I saw in the mirror, I was yelled at for that and shamed for that. So yeah, it's true. But when you recognize that that's not the way things are supposed to be, then you
Yeah,
have the ability to make that conscious choice to make change.
that's
And
right.
learning to shut her up is you have to learn to do it. It's like learning a new language, right?
Right.
Like you have to reprogram yourself. And I've even had a client wear a rubber band on her wrist. You wanted me to talk about a client? She wore a rubber band on her wrist, and then anytime she said something negative to herself, she would snap the rubber band.
Snap it.
Yeah,
I like that. Swat.
and just to remind herself, like like a therapy treatment, like shock treatment. No, no, no,
Yeah.
don't say that. And I remember pausing and apologizing to myself.
Mm,
And I would think, would I say that to my daughter?
yeah,
No, I would never say the things that I was saying inside here to anyone out loud.
that's right.
So why would you speak to yourself that way?
Yeah,
And you have to unlearn it. You owe it to yourself to unlearn that negative self-talk and to replace it with positive, loving talk. It will it will change your life. It really will.
absolutely. So you already gave us one tip here where, okay, most of us probably wear like a hairband, if not a rubber band on our wrist. So there's
Yeah.
one thing we can do when Shannon
Mhm.
starts screaming in your ear. You can, wow, that's effective. That starts to hurt after a second. What
Yeah.
else? Give us a tool. Give us a little teaser of a tool of something that everybody can use starting today to start loving ourselves more.
Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude,
Mm,
gratitude. Start loving yourself more. The mirror is another great tool. I recommend people do a lot of mirror work. And
mm,
especially if you have trouble looking in the mirror, make it an effort to spend time looking in the mirror and just appreciating whatever you see in the mirror,
mm.
whether it's your eyelashes, whether it's your ears, find something to love and to appreciate. Our bodies work so hard for us. They are a miracle. And we
Yes.
don't treat them as such. We really don't. Your body is this beautiful vessel that carries your soul, and it does amazing things. It allows you to hear beautiful music and taste amazing foods and see the beautiful colors, and we just don't learn to love and appreciate our body enough. Stop focusing on your cellulite and your extra belly fat. Don't focus on that. You know what we focus on magnifies and multiplies. Focus on the love and all the beauty that you see, and you will keep seeing more of that, more of
That's
that.
right. Yeah, and she's not talking about the time I spend in front of the 10x mirror every day plucking my chin hairs, okay? She's talking about admiring what you see in the mirror, which I
That's
also promise to work on myself. But
Tell
yeah, you're
yourself you
absolutely
love
right.
yourself. I tell myself all the time, I love you. And if you struggle with saying that, tell yourself I'm learning to love you.
Mm,
I am
yeah.
learning to love these thighs.
That's right. And you know what I found is that when you're, I also have lost a tremendous amount of weight. I was almost 300 pounds at one time. And like you said, when you look in the mirror and you focus on that thing, that's all that expands in your mind. But when you look in the mirror and you focus on the things you love about yourself, then you start to exhibit the behavior that cares for that self that you love. And that's when things change, like clearing skin, losing weight, getting stronger, being more shiny and healthier. That's when those things come in. You don't have to start the other way around and just, hit the gym 10 days a week, but you can start by just loving yourself. And then those things that make you want to love you more begin to happen naturally because you take action on behalf of yourself.
Right.
At least that's how it happened for me.
Yeah, me too. I always say you can't hate yourself into happy. You can't hate yourself into thin. It's not
Mm,
going to work. You have to learn to love that person
that's so
inside.
good. That's so
That w-
good. You can't hate yourself into happy, ladies. You can't hate your body into thin. You can't
no,
hate your bank account into riches. You cannot do that. You have to focus on the positive and love yourself, know yourself, and love her. Not love her anyway, but just love
yeah.
her just like she is. You're all capable of doing that. And I'm so happy that we had
Yeah.
Misty today to come on and tell us more about how you're helping women learn to love this beautiful vessel that we all have, that we can
Thank
call our
you.
own.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Tell the guests how they can work with you, Misty. If you're out there and you're going, shit, you know what? I really do kind of hate this broad. That's me. How can I love her more? How can they get in touch with you and start working with you in your 12-week program?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. This was an amazing, insightful, just juicy conversation. I loved every minute of it. If you would love to work with me, I would love to connect with you. If you visit my website, mistylaboy.com, I have a self-love quiz that lets you learn more about your love block, what's keeping you from fully loving an unconditional relationship with yourself. And if you take
Mm.
that quiz, it's a 3-minute quiz. I will send you the key, your solution to digging deeper and having a more loving relationship with yourself. And from
Ooh.
there, we could schedule a call if you want to learn more about the 12-week program. But I'm just honored to be here today amongst my fellow queen. Thank you so much. I just really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So if you're out there, you want to have more self-love, go over to mistylaboy.com and take her quiz. See where you're lacking. Get the keys to your queendom, ladies. You deserve to love yourself better. Thank you,
Yeah,
Misty, for being my guest today. And thank you for being a queen that leads.
thank you.
The Queen's Lead podcast is recorded worldwide and produced by the kick-ass media team at the Height Digital home base in Nicaragua. Until our next episode, stay real, Queens, and go lead. Remember to tap that follow and leave your review. For freebies and more real, inspiring content you love, go to amysingleton.net and connect with Amy on her socials at The Real Amy Singleton.
One more thing. This is the legal language, what my lawyer wrote and what I need to read to you. This podcast is presented for educational and entertainment purposes only. I am Amy Singleton, and I'm just your friend. Although I may speak to many on this show, I am not a psychotherapist, a business coach, a doctor, a CPA, a lawyer, or probably anyone who should be giving you professional advice. This podcast is not a substitute for a relationship with your doctor, coach, or any other licensed professional. Got it? Good. Now go be a queen and follow me at The Real Amy Singleton.